The Pieces Lie Where They Fell by Evil Humor. Edited and co-authored by Anon E. Mouse Jr. Read for you by My Name is R. Chapter 16. Xvital. "Are you well, Vixley?" Rex asked the Minotaur, as she sat up after she had fainted. "I'm good, Rex," she blushed, rubbing her hair out of her face. "Sorry about that. Seemed I needed to be talked to by your demigoddess to get some sense into my noggin." "Must have been a very long talk," Wind muttered under his breath, with Night snorting in agreement, before the two glared at each other. The two were still butting heads, but at least it had cooled down for now. Long enough," Vixley shrugged, with her element shifting around her chest. "Pinky was clear enough for me to understand what I was doing wrong." "Pinky?" Xvital asked, tilting her head as she tried to place which of the virtues she was talking about. "The wise oracle, though her name is really Pinkamena Diane Pie, but she likes Pinkie Pie a lot more." Vixley tilted her head. "Didn't seem all that jazzed by being called the wise oracle. Didn't yours not like her name too, Paige?" "No, Fluttershy told me she didn't like it at all," Paige Turner said, the unicorn nuzzling against Nightblade. "So what is your element?" "Laughter, and trust me, if I knew that's how your demigoddess really acted, I might convert," Vixley snorted before looking around the room with caution in her eyes. "Actually, the virtues themselves were never officially deified. They were considered to be the twin goddess princesses, elite warriors, who were only brought together in times of crisis," Rex said, once again proving to be a fountain of wisdom. "Only Miamora Cadenza was considered a demigoddess that was to marry a mortal pony before the unpleasantness with the changelings occurred." "Yes, Shining Armor was to be the consort of love before Chrysalis killed them all," Paige Turner said, causing Rex to face her with confusion on her face. "His face, perhaps?" "I grew up in the Great Library, and I heard and learned a great deal," she said, an answer that seemed to satisfy him. "So what does that mean, laughter?" Xvital asked, as Vixley began to feel her head for some reason. "How is that a weapon? For that matter, what about kindness? I mean, you can't stab someone with kindness, right?" "Well, Pinky told me that we act like the ones to make sure you guys don't get too serious. You know, being the sane one." "Well, that's reassuring," Night grumbled. "And mine, Night, is to make sure we stay acting morally right," Paige said, fixing a glare at Night, who winced and muttered an apology to Vixley. "That's all good, but how are they going to stop anyone?" Xvital said, with none of them giving her an answer. "Look, I don't know how you two got your elements, but I got mine by making all of you laugh," Vixley said before looking at Paige. "And I'm sure she got hers by being nice or kind to that changeling." "I suppose," Paige said, looking a bit nervous. "Does that mean we need to act a certain way to get the rest going?" "I don't think so, Paige," Rex said, pulling out a notebook. "Balance said simply that we need to be true to ourselves. If we were to force it, I highly doubt it would register for our elements." "And don't forget what it said about the last one," Windbreaker chirped in. "The last one will only come in after we get the rest?" "Yes, so one of us isn't going to get our element by a random act," Xvital said with a huff. "On one hand, if we keep things up, we should be good by the end of the week." "But on the other hoof, I doubt we'll be that lucky," Night said glumly. "Right, guys, change of topics, but what are our plans to get out of Canterlot?" Vixley asked, squatting down beside her with one of her hammers almost poking her in the face. Don't worry, that's Lady Kabonk, my fluffy hammer. Vixley reached up and squeezed the hammerhead before brushing her hand on her blue, yellow, and white skirt. Signor Hardhead is the other one. Good to know, Vital said to herself, eyeing them both. They were near identical even to her appraising eye, and she prided herself in picking apart details. It was how she passed counterfeit books and stuff over the years, and avoided getting caught by the cops. And I guess the plan is to risk the bridge. If Knight's right about the captains, then the guards are going to be breathing down our necks in no time. And if you are right about being the Bane of Tartarus being our foe, then we need to move fast. Everyone winced at that, while all the officers made Vital uneasy, knowing that it was gentle step after them was downright nerve-wracking. The only thing that could rattle her more was if he showed his head, and she was nowhere ready to deal with that. So, we're going to use the Bloss Bridge? Windbreaker asked. Yeah, we're going to go for now. Oh, we're going to go now, Vital said, her ears flicking. It's dark, so we'll blend in with our dark coats. People are still celebrating, so there will be a crowd to cover us, and it will take time for the guards to get their act together and cover all the bridges. Once we get to the other side of the Canticle Canal, I do believe I can aid in our departure from Canterlot. I live in the east, and while I do not partake in such activities, I was observant in listening to what my former pack and my neighbors mentioned about the defense structures of the east. There are a number of holes that the Celestia guards do not know about. Rex said, After that, I do believe we will have an easy way to your doctor, Vital. Doctor? Oh, yeah, I getcha, Vital said with a grin on her face. Operates out of a temple dedicated to Luna. Well, that isn't sacrilegious or anything, Paige said with a frown, before shaking her head. So what do we do if we get cornered or the guards spot us? We're going to work in teams again. Knight, you are with Paige this time, and Wind, you're still with me, Vital said, watching Knight perk up at this. Knight, I trust you can protect her with your life, and Wind, you're mobile with your wings. Rex, you've got your potions, right? Yes, I do, and in fact... Rex reached into a pocket before pulling out pieces of cloth. In case another of my smoke potions goes off, or I need to use a sensory potion, press this against your face, and you will be fine. What about if you use something that will blind us? Knight raised an eyebrow. My eyes really can't take flashes of light all that well. I am well aware of such facts, Nightblade, and again, my handkerchiefs will protect you, Rex said, with a bit of a growl in his voice. Okay, focus here. Vital snapped her fingers to drag their attention back to her. We want to move quickly and quietly, but we should be ready to hit back hard and then dash away. May I? Vital asked, reaching out for Vixley's real hammer, which Vixley pulled out with her hand. Nearly toppling over from the sudden weight of it, Vital couldn't help herself from squeaking as she used all 3 hands to hold it upright. Santo Dios, como cajaras agarras esto con una mano? Everyone turned their heads to Rex, who simply coughed before saying, She is inquiring how you are able to lift that hammer single-pawedly. Ah! Vixley plucked her hammer up before sliding it back into the sheath on her back. I'm just a bit stronger than most, is all. Okay, with Vixley's hammer, Paige's magic, and Rex's potions, we have heavy hitters, with Knight and me being good at close combat. Right, Knight? I am the captain of the West team for Swords Pony Ship tournaments for a very good reason, Knight said, with a bit of pride in his voice. What about me? Wind asked, leaning closer to her. How do I figure into all this? Vital sighed, shaking her head.
Do you have any weapons on you? Ever used anything beyond your claws? Well, no, but Windbreaker began before Night cut in. Then you're pretty much dead weight, he said, in a snide tone that made Xvital sigh in frustration. The guards are trained to fight ponies and griffins, and having nothing to defend yourself puts you and the rest of us in serious danger. I'm sorry, but buying and wasting my time with a sword or something like that doesn't help me with my debts. Unlike some ponies, I have obligations and responsibilities I see to. Okay, enough, you two, Vittle snapped, glaring at Knight before looking around the room. Maybe you can pick up a pole and use it as a stick or something? I wouldn't advise that, Rex said as he began to go through all his bags, waving Knight to give him his. Rex said as he began to go through all the bags, waving Knight to give him his, and began to reorganize things. It would look suspicious to start with, and secondly, how would he carry it? You're right, Vittle groaned into her hand. And it doesn't help that you're like half the size of normal griffins. Hey, from what I've heard, most of the griffins here are from the high mountain regions back in the Griffinlands, so I'm just from another area, I guess. Wind shrugged his shoulders. And I'm not that short. Regardless of that fact, Knight is correct, you could be a liability, Rex interjected, moving the food he and Paige got into another bag after muttering himself. In any case, fighting should be our lowest concern, and my goodness, you have a lot of expensive wines, Windbreaker. Yeah, and I am not leaving them behind, he growled, eyeing his pack. Took me a long time and a lot of money to get some of them, and I haven't even had some of them yet. While that is all good, Let him keep his wine and booze, Rex, Vittle said, taking charge again. He sold a number of bottles when we were out, and we're not ready to deal with a griffin getting onto the wagon. How many times do I have to say that I am not an alcoholic? Wind's grumbling broke off in a fit of coughing, with him rubbing his throat at the end. It would help me believe you if you were to pour all your alcohol down the drain, Knight snarked at the fuming griffin, who seemed ready to lunge at the bad pony at this point. Knight, stop that, Rex swatted at him before turning to face Windbreaker. I am sure you have your reasons, and while I can smell the alcohol from here, you seem to be functioning pretty well. Well, yeah, I only drink to get buzzed, Windbreaker said as he leaned backwards. There was a job I was doing a few years ago, where a couple of other griffins and I had been hired to redo the surfaces on the roof of an apartment building. While we were working, some earth pony wandered out of the roof access a few buildings over, and we realized too late that he was so smashed off his plot, he'd forgotten he wasn't a Pegasus and was trying to fly. Windbreaker closed his eyes. Between how fast he went and how far away we were, none of us could have caught him before he jumped off the roof. One of the others actually tried to catch him as he was falling, but he didn't get close. The griffin sounded solemn as he remembered what happened next. That pony fell almost 80 feet straight down and shattered all 4 legs when he landed. If one of the unicorns below hadn't managed to cast a cushioning spell on the ground at the last minute, the impact probably would have killed him, even with his natural durability. Last I've heard is that the pony is completely wheel-bound now, and you know how little Canterlot is handicap accessible. The others all winced, and Nightblade had an apologetic look on his face. Even before that, I never drank enough to get more than a buzz, and after that, I had all the more reason not to do it, even without the laws against public intoxication, Windbreaker concluded. Knight gave him a look before tilting his head. Sorry, he said plainly, eyes looking to the side. It's not your fault, you didn't know, Windbreaker told him. Besides, I heard he sobered up for good after that.
Hasn't touched a drop since, according to one of the guys he used to drink with. That's no surprise. Vixley let out a short, soft whistle before she glanced at the two. So, you two good now? Both of them looked at each other before shaking their heads. I honestly doubt it, Knight said. I know you wouldn't be blind stinking drunk, and put Paige in danger, but I still can't bring myself to trust you. And you are still a spoiled noble brat that I just want to punch in the face, Windbreaker replied, while running a claw down the back of his head. Okay, if you two are finally done, Vittel looked at the two of them, really hoping she'd get them to put their grudge away for good in the near future. Let's get ready with the plan, shall we? We don't have long. So let's get this done quickly and smartly. Pulling up the map of Middle North, she began to brainstorm with the rest circling around her, to pitch ideas and notions of how exactly they were going to fool the Magi of the Stars guards along the bridge that housed the machines that powered the entire city. Well, I don't really have anything for this chapter, so I'll just be bidding you guys a pleasant day. Hope you had a fun time listening. See you again later. Thanks for watching, listening, thingy. Bye, everybody.